Why not pitch Netflix and get them to do an upcoming project?
I doubt I would ever get in the room with them. I mean, I'm just being honest. I don't know how I would get in the room with them. You know, it's weird in this business too, and this is the honest truth, is, you know, I'm sure, I mean, I'm not saying it was easy for the Duffer Brothers with Stranger Things, but it did probably help that they hadn't done a whole lot when they pitched that. What happens in this business is it's sort of a double-edged sword. Is, you know, if you start to do things and you have a track record and you made X number of movies, well, okay, that's great because it shows you can do this and you can do it. You've done it more than once, and obviously you've got some kind of, you know, track record skills and so on. But for some people, depending on the type of movies you make, and in my case it's horror movies, that's a stigma. It stigmatizes you, and then most people think that's all that they can do. That's all that guy knows how to do. I mean, and I just throw a name out there, Wes Craven, on a obviously way bigger level, you know, he struggled with that his entire career. That's why he made the movie with Meryl Streep, because he just he was tired of making horror. He wanted to make other things. Most horror directors want to make other types of movies. They just don't get to. George Romero had plenty of things he wanted to do, Wes Craven things, they all do, John Carpenter, all of them. But they're generally not going to get it. And I'm talking about major people here. They're not going to get it because their track record says he makes this type of film. So my track record says I make these type of films, and I don't think that Netflix would care about that. I think they'd see that as a negative. Maybe if I'd only made one short, they might be interested in having a meeting with me. You know, a short that was very hot, let's just say, played at, you know, some major fest. But, and that doesn't mean that, and that's not because I don't have any ideas for things, or I don't have ideas that could be expanded to TV series. But yeah.
So, having, you know, been here in the 90s and then, you know, entering a new era where there's going to be younger people in charge, do you find they have a harder time telling you no than maybe Gen Xers or people in another decade where it seemed like it was okay to be a little more blunt, and now we're very sensitive and we're dancing into everybody's feelings and nobody wants to tell anybody no, but then they're not telling you the truth because I'm seeing a lot of that, and sometimes maybe it's just better people just tell you no.
Well, yeah, I think it's because of, you know, so much online communication. You know, there's the classic, you know, no response, you know, sort of the ghosting, you know, or whatever that people do, where they just, if they don't want to, they want to move away from the situation or say no or whatever, they just won't do anything. I guess like no response is okay, whatever that is, you know. I don't know. I mean, we're pretty straightforward with people. Like, we're very straightforward in auditions. We're very straightforward in meetings about, like, when we're interviewing crew. You know, that doesn't mean that things aren't still going to come up later. Sometimes it doesn't matter how much you talk to, you're blue in the face and impress something upon someone. They either aren't listening to you, or they've got an agenda, or they just decide that they've got another idea later on. That can all happen. You have to be prepared for that. We just try to be as straightforward as possible. What other people do, we can't really say. But if we get a bad vibe off of somebody, or a non-committal vibe or whatever, we just move on. You know.
Oh, sure.
I mean, there's a lot of moving on you do in this business.
Absolutely.
A ton of it. Too much. You know, and sometimes it happens way quicker than you think it will. But that's something else you need to get used to if you're going to have a career, I think, on any level, is just used to change and new faces, and, you know, and kind of self-starting, you know, and coming up with things like almost like every film is your first film. You know, I'm sure you've heard that before. People say, you know, I feel like every time, I mean, I've felt that way many times, that I'm trying to pitch something to some people and I'm going, why do I even have to do this? I've got over 20 features because that's just how this business is. People, you know, you always got to prove yourself to somebody in some way, some more than others, but, you know.
But knowing that, does it make it less stressful? Knowing that you have to, like, self-start again, and then you just go, okay, well, I'm back here again.
It's annoying. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's annoying, and of course, because you know there's other people that don't have to do that. So there are. I mean, on a higher tier, there are people who don't have to do that. But there's an alarming number of accomplished people who do. So that makes it a little bit easier to take, I guess, when you know that, some of your heroes still have to, put on a dog and pony show for, for investors or whatever. I don't know. I mean, we've tried to take things, try to be as calm as we can over time. That's one of the things that Josephine and I both tried to sort of learn with some of these experiences, is you can get very heated over these little situations sometimes with film. That's one thing I'd probably tell anybody, really, is a lot of times it's not as big a deal as you think it is. If it's an editing issue, if it's a sound issue, if it's a certain shot, believe me, it's not as big a deal as you think it is. Sometimes you can get very fixated on these type of things, and you can get very stressed about this stuff. It's not even about personality, sometimes it's technical things too. You just try to be as calm as you can in those type of situations,